Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you guys for joining me once again. My name is Wilky and I'm back with another Kritika online guide, and today's topic is going to be revolving around gearing, upgrading, and basically how to use, enhance, and I guess magnify your combat rating as well as your damage output and defensive things in the game. So first thing first, if you take a look at any of your equipment, it doesn't have to be legendary, we're just going to use that for this video, is that at the bottom you see appraise stats, charming, soul gems, and enhancing. So those are the four ways in order to manipulate, or rather I should say increase your combat ratio or combat rating, as well as your damage output and survivability in dungeons in Kritika Online. So if you hold your control key, you can actually see that on my current sword, I have appraise stats, attack plus, accuracy plus, bonus crit damage, and increased crit damage to elites. Now, all of these weapons come with a fixed amount of stats. So some of these stats, like every weapon has attack, this type of weapon has attack speed and crit damage on it. So these stats are fixed. However, as you can see, these appraise stats, these are randomly generated. So they are random in terms of the value, and they are also random in terms of what stat it actually is. And luckily within the game, there's two types of reappraisal scrolls. One that says use to randomly reselect an item stat, and those are the ones that I call the bad reappraisal scrolls, because it basically, you're just completely random of what your stats are going to be afterwards. And then there's the better reappraisal scrolls that are better for two reasons. Damn it. The first reason is it allows you to lock certain stats in. So for example, if I want to keep the attack and the accuracy bonus, I can add those here. Let's just say I want everything except the bonus crit damage. So I could lock all of these stats, and you could see it would use quite a lot of reappraisal scroll. So this is actually quite expensive, but let's say you're having the top-notch legendary item and you're actually left with only one stat that's shitty. Everything else is perfect. So you obviously do not want to change those, so that's one way to do it. The other good thing about these scrolls is if you see this little magnifying lens at the left here, it'll show you possible stats that you can get by reappraising this item. So let's say you can see you can get attack, accuracy, attack speed, you can see the whole list. And this list is unfortunately only available if you use these better reappraisal scrolls, which is a bit sad. But generally the game tells you which stats there are possibly to be gained, so you can actually determine whether or not it's worth your money, or rather your time farming reappraisal scrolls, or if it would just say, well, it's actually not that bad, the stat I'm having, so I'm just going to keep the weapon like that. So that's how reappraising works. You do have a second type of scrolls, which are called Recalculation Scrolls, and they work in a, I guess, very similar fashion, but instead of rerolling the actual stat, you just change the value. And similar to the reappraisal ones, you have the cheap one, which just gives you that window, and you can see my attack is relatively good, my bonus damage is almost maximum, and these other stats, accuracy, actually, with the exception of bonus crit damage, the rest seems pretty solid. And you can also use the very good ones, and they do not come with a magnifying lens because you are not changing the actual stat, but only the value. But similar to the reappraisal scrolls, you can now lock certain stats. So for example, I don't think it's worth rerolling that stat, and attack is also pretty good, but that will also increase the number of recalculation scrolls. And if I were to recalculate, there's another cool thing about this game, that if you recalculate, you do not actually have to take the changes. So if I just leave the window now, my weapon's still gonna have the old stats. And if I click on recalculation changes, then it'll notify me that these are the stats that my new weapon will have. So you can actually choose if you like the new result, or if the old result was better, then just keep the old one. However, this only works with the expensive ones. I'm just gonna blow up my sword here to showcase what I mean. My bad. Stupid. Let's go for that one. And I'm just gonna hit that, and that's it. And now these stats are fixed. Like if you use these cheap scrolls, or these weaker scrolls I'd like to call them, then you're done. Whatever stats it has afterwards, you have to take those. There's no turning back there. Other than that, this is how reappraising works. This is how you change stats and things in the reappraisal segment of the game. So let's go to the second part, which is charming. I did cover charms in my elements guide, but basically charms are just another way to increase your damage output, boost certain stats of your gear. And for example, you have charms that boost your elemental bonus. You have charms. I actually don't have any other. Wait, let's take a look at my vault. I should have a bunch of other charms that are, for example, this accuracy charm that I could be socketing into my head would give me crit damage and accuracy. And as you can see, these charms have a variety of stats, not only offensive stats, but also defensive stats. And you should very much look and see which slot you want to fill and what element or what type of stat you're actually looking for. Some classes benefit a lot more from crit damage because they have an innate crit bonus. Other classes potentially prefer raw attack bonus or other stats like that. But basically how this works is whenever you have a charm, for example, my helmet does not have any charm in it, so all you do is you take out the item you want to actually socket, then you right click on the charm and you just put it in, and it'll show you the charm, the item, and what stats there's going to be, and that's it. And that's how you charm an equipment. It's very straightforward, it's very simple, it's very easy, there's not a lot of bogus going around with that. And now if you scroll down, you can see which charm I have used, and there's that. The third option are Soulgems, which I guess works similar to the charms, with a bit of a difference, because charms are not bound, and there's a multitude of ways on how to get charms, but Soulgems, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one way to actually farm them, and that is daily dungeons, so I highly recommend doing those. Once you have a bunch of gems, as I said, these are bound, so I cannot actually trade them to different characters. If you want gems on a certain character, you have to farm them on that character. Once you have them, you can go to the Soul Gem processor, the Gem Forge. And now there's 3 tabs in here. The first one is pretty straightforward. It's socketing. We're just going to use the gloves. I hope I do actually have something. You just carve out sockets. It costs 30,000, which is really not a lot. You just do that once. Do we actually have any gems that go into that thingy? Chest, leg, or foot? Yeah, I can actually use a sapphire. This is only really for testing purposes. But generally, these gems are divided into 3 types. And these 3 types are sapphires, topaz, and ruby. Sapphires go into your hand, hat, or weapon, which you can always see in the tooltip. A topaz goes into your accessory slots, and a ruby goes into your chest, leg, or foot. And actually, which is really, really cool, you can see all of the potential stats that you can get on these gems in the Gemcraft. So actually, if you can see, sapphires can come in slashing, striking, piercing, or with an accuracy bonus. A topaz basically comes with all of the elemental bonuses, and rubies come with damage, critical chance, attack power, and crit damage. So you can actually see very much what potential gems there are in the game, so that's very cool. And the third tab is the Gem Fusion. Now you can just go and randomly combine 2 gems, and it's completely random what type of gem I'm going to be receiving. However, if you have something that is called the Soul Gem Fusion coupon, which is also obtained just by farming these soul gems in the daily dungeon, all you basically then have to do, we're just going to take that poison, and we want a, let's say since we're Doomblade, we want a slashing sapphire. We're going to use one of our Soul Gem Fusion coupons, yes, fuse them, and voila, we're now having a slashing sapphire too. So that's a very easy and safe way to get specific gems. And personally, I'd say keep those Soul Gem Fusion coupons for the higher level ones, because they are generally rare, so you don't want to YOLO those ones. And for the level ones, I'd say at one point in time, you probably have more gems than the Soul Gem Fusion coupons, so you probably might end up just slamming some of these low level gems together in order to just RNG your chances out and maybe get 1 or 2 gems that are actually quite helpful. Other than that, this is already about socketing. Unlike charms, you do actually have to socket at this place though, so we're just gonna go put the Striking Sapphire into, and the Slashing Sapphire, and then you just hit on socket, and that's it. And that's how you socket stuff into any of your items. And now my gloves come with striking and slashing bonus. Or crushing, I should say. Other than that, these are the three, I guess, different types of how to upgrade your armor and weapons. And for the most straightforward one, that's actually enhancing. And all you have to do for that, you go to any of the enhanced anvils. I think every town has one of those. It's basically the anvil sign. It's usually somewhere near the blacksmith. You click on enhance, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You right-click the item, you receive the new window, which basically prompts you to take any of your stones. Depending on the type and quality of stone, the amount of Enhancer's Blessing is gonna increase. And what Enhancer's Blessing does, it's basically a fail-safe way so that upgrading at some point will definitely work. I do not know if there's a cap. I do not know if the Enhancer's Blessing stops at some point, but we're just going to go enhance for a bit. Generally speaking, if you scroll down to the enhancing, you can see what the enhancing does. And for legendary or higher grade items, usually the enhancing also comes with a different type of bonus. For example, on my legendary sword, upgrading it to +9 gives me additional 100 attack. Upgrading it to +11 gives me additional 300 attack, and upgrading it to 13 gives me 3% bonus damage. And that's pretty much straightforward. As far as the enhancing process itself goes, as I said, it uses whetstones, which is the enhanced material. It uses gold, which early on might be a bit of a shortage, but later on you probably don't have too much trouble farming gold. And then it uses something that is called stability. And as you can see, required stability 11. So every time I attempt to enchant my weapon right now, it doesn't matter if it fails or not, it will use stability. So if I just hit F1, you're going to be seeing that that was pretty obvious that I'm going to fail. So now the stability went down, and as you can see, my weapon now at the very bottom has something called Enhancer's Blessing 0.7%. So now I have a 0.7% chance that my enhancement will succeed. So basically, the more you fail, the higher the likelihood that eventually you're gonna get the upgrade. As I said, I failed again. More stability is lost, and now we're up with the blessing to 1.45. And I don't think I do actually have enough stones to get this weapon to 7, but it doesn't really matter. This is pretty much how the enhancing process works. It's very straightforward. There's really not too much about that. The way to recover stability is through these hammers, and as I said in one of my other guide videos, these hammers are very, very valuable, because keep in mind that this is a +7 weapon. And +7 is usually, if you're lucky, you can do that without using any of the hammers. Going for a weapon that or an item that has 13 or even 15 upgrade stages, you can make sure that you'll use a lot of those stability hammers. And keep in mind that you basically have 9 inventory slots to use and to fill with up to legendary equipment if you're 65. And some of these legendary items go to, as I said, +15. So make sure that you hold onto your hammers early on into the game. Do not use any of the hammers on early equipment, because you need them later on. And this is probably, alongside with whetstones, hammers are probably going to be the main shortage you're going to be finding yourself in when upgrading items. Anyways, this is really all about how gearing up works, how you basically improve your stats on any of the pieces of equipment. As I said, the appraisal, charming, gemming works on every piece of equipment. As you can see, my necklace has a dark charm in it, dark topaz in it, and it's upgraded. And as I said, similar to the legendary, if I were to upgrade my necklace even further, I would be getting an additional 100 attack, bonus damage 2.5%, and at 13, bonus crit damage against bosses by 10%. So there's quite a lot of that. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this enchanting. It's not really an enhancing guide. It's generally just speaking about how gear works and how you can boost your stats with the 4 ways that we have available in Kritika Online. If there's anything else you want to know, or anything on how to farm these items, feel free to hit me up. And yeah, hopefully you guys find this guide helpful, and as always, catch you guys next time.